mean, you want to start on tariffs, don't you?
Yes, because apparently China has just announced it's going to impose taxes on a whole load of products from the US, fighting back against Trump, who says tariffs, or import taxes, are his favourite word, the most beautiful word in the English language. Now, lots of people might think, what has this got to do with me, got to do with us? But tariffs and trade wars can escalate very quickly, can't they?
Tariffs are a tax, simple as that. And Trump will say, so far, he's winning because 25% tariffs on Mexico. The Mexican president has responded by sending 10,000 troops to the border to try to help stop the flow of illegal migrants. Similar from Canada, so the bully boys winning.
Are there a lot of illegal migrants going from Canada into the United States?
No. It's a face-saver for Trump because he's faced a huge backlash in the US from business and consumers because tariffs are taxes. So they're taxes on what you buy and what you sell abroad. So it pushes up the price of what you buy. So therefore it's inflationary, it erodes your standard of living. That was Trump's number one election issue. Migration was number two, very close behind, but it was his number one issue, and he was going to make the people he got to vote for him worse off. So he's come up with these pauses, but they are face savers for him. He's got himself on a hook. He's trying to get off it.
It's really interesting, this, because Donald Trump, we know he really cares about whether the stock market is doing well. Because the stock market's booming, America's booming, Trump's doing well, and he announced these big tariffs, and over the next 24 hours, the stock market collapsed. Fell really badly. All the pensions and savings of Americans all becoming much less valuable. Did he at that point think, the markets have turned against me, I need to announce a pause? Was it actually a retreat, or did he think, I'm getting those troops on the borders from the Mexicans, and therefore I'm winning?
You'd never know what
Which
Donald
one
Trump,
is it?
You'd never know what Donald Trump thinks, would you? It's a very dangerous area to even speculate.
But what he'll say is that he's winning.
Yes, exactly what he'll say. Exactly what he'll say.
But Susanna even says that when he's lost an election, which he lost quite clearly, legally, constitutionally, just over 4 years ago, and he says he wins. He always says he's a winner.
He said, I'm going to put these tariffs on, and then within 24 hours he said, no, I'm not.
But he's rash, he's reckless, he's dangerous, and he's harming America, not just other countries.
The trouble with, as you point out, the trouble with putting taxes on imports is that it raises the cost of products for Americans. And so, if he imposes tariffs on goods from the UK, what would that mean for us and our businesses?
Put tariffs. I mean, tariffs will go back on to things like Harley Davidsons and
whiskey
and lobsters, things which we import from America to here. And you know, if you are a worker in America working in those areas, and suddenly your export market falls, you think, well, hang on a sec, Donald, you're supposed to be on my side. So there is a double edge to this. He's playing a dangerous game, and he might be winning by getting what he wants for troops on the border, but not necessarily.
And if he puts tariffs on goods imported from Britain, that threatens the jobs of the people making those goods too. But it's the same coming out of the US, and I think China's also additionally said they're now going to have an investigation into Google and whether they've been breaking antitrust competitive rules. Look, he's started a fire and he may not be able to put it out.
What did you make yesterday about the fact that I still find this extraordinary, that Elon Musk, of course, is part of Trump's cabinet, and he and the president have agreed to shut down USAID. This is their international development agency. And he said, we're shutting it down. He's got the full support of the president. The agency is beyond repair. Its budget for 2023 was about $40 billion. It supports foreign aid and overseas charities. That works out about £32 billion. Yesterday, when we were talking about the WASPy women and why the UK government wasn't compensating women who had not had enough information about the change in pension aid, I noticed on X huge number of people, our viewers, responding, saying, We spend billions on foreign aid abroad, helping disadvantaged women in foreign countries. Why don't we stop that money and spend that on women disadvantaged here at home? Now, I wonder whether the cut in aid budget over there is going to ignite that debate again over here.
Well, and why shouldn't it? Look, I mean, Kevin and I would always disagree on this. We have a huge aid budget going on.
£14 billion.
It's a lot of money. And some of it, I don't think, is spent wisely. And we know that in some years, under the last government, there was $1 billion or so still knocking around in the budget at the end of the year. And they just, let's just spend it. Where should we spend it? Let's spend it anywhere. Well, let's keep it here and spend it on this country first. And I think it's an important thing. Where does charity begin? It begins at home.
But there's a quite important counter-argument to that, which is if you want to stop people travelling from Syria or Iraq or other troubled places to Britain on boats, you've got to solve that problem at source. If you want to deal with climate change,
that hasn't worked very
which
well,
is impacting...
Well, that hasn't worked very well, has it?
No, I think for some years it's worked quite badly. But the question is, if you don't do things to keep people in their own countries, they come to us. So this is an act of foreign and security policy.
It is, and if you develop their economies, then the world economy grows, and you'll sell more British goods down the line. It is an investment. That's beyond the humanitarian issue, which I would make, is do you want to leave people starving, dying of thirst,
we're seeing
kids
farmers
being killed by diseases that are preventable?
We're seeing farmers in this country protesting about the changes in inheritance tax rules, and at the same time we're giving, from the foreign aid budget, $650 million to farmers in Africa and Asia to support various projects. How does that work?
It's become...
Why it's crazy.
Some hearts have
What about our farmers? Producing our food?
Some hearts have hardened from the days when Tony Blair, Gordon Brown, then David Cameron championed Britain, given 0.7% of national wealth GDP under the UN target.
But it's
hearts have hardened. But it is very... Again, it's drawing into yourself, thinking you can just pull up a drawbridge, the world will just be all right. Well, it won't. It won't. Well, the world, you have a role to try and make the world a better place.
Tell that to the pensioners who've lost their winter fuel.
It's
safer.
Tell
that to the pensioners who've lost their winter fuel.
It's safer. They will benefit too in the long run.
But do you remember yesterday, and I would say every single morning, a government minister will come on and we'll say, why did you withdraw the winter fuel allowance from most pensioners? Why aren't you going to compensate the women who lost out on their pension payments? And they will say, there are tough choices to be made. We were left with this huge black hole, and therefore we have to make really uncomfortable, difficult choices. And people watching will think, how come the foreign aid budget isn't one of those tough choices? If people are losing out here, why isn't that the priority?
I'd counter, well, if you want to save money, I'd say, well, look at the royal family. It must be about 350 million we feather-bed them with.
It's not 14 billion.
We'll spend about 100 billion plus on nuclear weapons that are unusable. You can never, ever use them. And if you want more tax, well, there's a lot of billionaires and very wealthy people who don't pay much tax.
No,
they haven't.
Yeah, they're all
leaving. They want to live here. They want to live here.
Leaving every
they don't want to live in Dubai. They don't want to live in...
Multi-millionaires leaving every 45 minutes. Well done, Rachel.
Are you a PR for them?
Well done.
Yeah, look at that.
But, Kevin, don't you think that this is going to become...
No, you've got to make the argument.
Exactly.
Yeah, you've got to make the argument for it.
You have to argue why you're not going to put... UK pensioners first if you're going to spend that much money. And I'm not sure that... Because in America, basically, that argument's been lost. They've decided to bring that money back home.
A lot of British people are very generous, and you see that when there's an aid appeal. They know the trouble around the world.
Well, no one's suggesting that people shouldn't stop being generous out of their own pockets.
And that 14 billion you mentioned, a large proportion of that is spent in Britain now on refugees, asylum seekers and migrants who've arrived and are being processed. So it's not all spent abroad. It's all got to be spent carefully.
Isn't that a sign that it's failed? The foreign budget if we have to spend so much of that money here?
No, it's a
because those people haven't stayed.
No, it's a sign, as we've discussed many times, the world is a more unstable place because of military conflicts, of coups, and also climate change, which some of the money is going to prevent that. Because if people are living in areas where you rely on crops, all of a sudden you get drought after drought, year after year, we're seeing extreme weather swings, those people can't live, so they move. And they move their country. So if you spend that aid in a country, they're more likely to stay and live and be able to have a prosperous life in those countries.
It's a very interesting choice, isn't it, though, for Kemi Badenoch? Because as you were saying, back in the time when the Conservatives won elections, and David Cameron won in 2015, David Cameron won saying, not only am I going to protect the National Health Service, but I'm going to protect the international aid budget. And, of course, Nigel Farage and Reform are going to say, cut the aid budget. Is it in the Conservatives' interest to follow him down that road and say, let's cut international development, like Musk is saying in America, and spend it all in Britain? Or does that actually end up taking them away from the kind of centre-ground politics which the Tories had under Cameron?
I don't think you're moving away from the centre ground if you decide to prioritise the spending on causes in this country. I think the story should have been there.
Was David Cameron wrong?
Yes, he was.
He was wrong to support the international aid budget?
Yes, he was. He was wrong to expand it so much. Completely wrong. And so was Theresa May. It was ridiculous. And it should be spent here.
It had widespread backing at the time, and the Conservative Party conferences to the right of Conservative MPs. It's to the right of where most voters are. Right. When he used to say, we're going to pay 0.7% international aid, he used to get really loud applause at the Conservative Party conference. I was there at the time.
Not from me.
I think the public mood is changing, and Kemi Badenoch, Keir Starmer and Ed Davey, Labour and Lib Dems, who have to decide what type of party they want to be, who they're going to appeal to, how they're going to appeal to them, and ultimately what type of a country Britain is going to be. If we're going to be a meaner country, not caring about poorer people in the rest of the world, and not seeing where our interests lie, then they'll cut it.
If there are girls who don't go to school and children who don't have clean water and children who die of disease, you do care about that.
Of course I care. And
but I also when you said you didn't, you meant you did.
No, let me just be quite clear. I care more about the fact that people in this country can't afford to put their heating on this winter because the Labour government has taken away the winter fuel.
Well, I care about that.
That's what I care about. And I think
care about that more.
And this government keeps telling us we inherited a terrible inheritance from the Conservatives. We have black coal money. So why are we giving £14 billion to indiscriminate projects overseas?
And just to point out, we're discussing this on the day that Reform has topped a YouGov voting intention poll for the first time, beating Labour to take the lead. This happened at the beginning of the week. The poll showed if a general election were held today, 25% of British voters would choose Reform, 24% would pick Labour, 21% would vote for...
Can I just say, though, I think it's a false, fraudulent, poisonous choice to make it between people having winter fuel and somebody not dying in another country. That's not a... Look,
no, that's not
why it was
Labour's
cut.
own research showed that.
No, it's not that.
Yes, it did.
It's not. No, don't put bodies on a funeral pyre in Africa or Asia and the poorer parts of the world.
The Labour Party published research in 2017 saying there would be around 4,000 additional deaths if the winter fuel allowance was taken away. This Labour government has taken the winter fuel allowance away. That means we will have thousands of unnecessary excess deaths because of this government's policy.
Look, I've condemned that cut time after time after time, but the choice was not winter fuel for pensioners.
It's the government ministers who say it's a choice.
It's a choice.
Every time they come on air, they say they have to make a financial choice.
Yeah, but why? One, you can run a deficit slightly higher. Two, you can tax somebody who's particularly wealthy, and three, you could cut something else if you're going to do it that way. To do it is really toxic. To always say it's the poorer people around the world. It's those people who are black and brown around the world.
It's an argument that has been had over and over again with the cuts that are being made, and America has made that choice. Can I move on to something else that is worrying the papers this morning? And I wonder if it worries you. And this is about Sir Keir Starmer's voice coach. Now, this has all come out of this book, Get In, which is making headlines left, right and centre.
Patrick Maguire and Gabriel Pogren from The Times and The Sunday Times.
Two very well plugged-in hacks on the Labour Party.
They've had lots of stories this week from that book.
Yeah.
They have revealed that Sir Keir Starmer had a voice coach during COVID lockdown. Her name is Leonie Mellinger, and she was invited to coach him when he was then in opposition. And it happened during December 2020. Now, you may remember, and I think everybody does, because it was the first Christmas of the lockdown, people could not be together at Christmas.
Including me.
I remember having a Zoom Christmas.
Yeah.
With my
I didn't
mum.
get to see my mum.
We thought it was going to happen, and then everything got shut down.
Yeah. So, how come Leonie Mellinger qualified for key worker status as a voice coach and went to Labour Party headquarters on Christmas Eve? Yesterday, Keir Starmer was asked about this at the press conference. Let's have a look at what he said.
That's all we have time for. Thank you.
Well, a key worker, according to the official government definition at the time, is a local or national government administrative occupation essential to the effective delivery of COVID-19 response or that deliver essential public services, either payments or benefits. People running the justice system, religious staff, charities, workers, key delivering frontline services. It actually included journalists and broadcasters who provide public service broadcasting. So...
We were here in the studio broadcasting.
Does Keir Starmer's voice coach...
An actor.
...count as a...
key worker.
Key to running the COVID-19
Absolutely
response?
not. Under no circumstances do you need... I mean, why not? If it was so important, could have done it on Zoom. That's what everybody was doing in those days. She was not a key worker at all. This was true. And by the way, he could do with another voice coach because it didn't work, whatever advice you gave him. But it's extraordinary that he thought that was a legitimate... it's a breach of Tier 4 law.
We're just discussing it on the basis we're assuming the book is accurate on this. And I think both are good journalists, but we haven't heard from her or properly Starmer.
Although we would have done if it was inaccurate.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, we would.
But it's going to come down. He's a stickler for rules. I mean, he's boring on it, and sometimes he can't think creatively. I suspect it'll come down to the legal definition of what is a key worker. And you might find, if you're a drama teacher or you're a voice coach or something like that, that you're allowed to go around and do your business. That's what it'll come down.
Key workers, of course, were allowed, because teachers were key workers, and the children of key workers were allowed to go into schools. So
the phrase is key frontline services. A teacher is clearly delivering a key frontline service.
But was she a teacher? Because she was teaching him how to use his voice.
So a key frontline service.
No, we can say... I agree.
Frontline.
It doesn't sound key to me.
I'm trying to work out...
Legally, she as a teacher...
People are going to see right through
that is
this.
it.
They're going to see right through this. You do not... It was not essential. It was not key for the Leader of the Opposition to have somebody come into his office to teach him how to gargle.
The thing I get is Christmas Eve.
Yeah, Christmas Eve as well.
What are you doing on Christmas Eve? I mean,
on Christmas Eve. That's when she came in.
Even if you couldn't travel to see another family, you would have thought you'd be...
So all these families who can't
your meal ready,
all these families who can't be together at Christmas, but Keir Starmer could have his voice coach come into him on Christmas Eve.
You're trying very hard, I know. You're trying very hard.
Kevin, it's an outrageous
You did the same on Beergate, and Kevin, you wasted a whole load of police time and money.
I'm amazed you stick up for him so loyally on this. It's incredible.
I deal with facts. I deal with facts.
No, him.
I was actually about to ask. I mean, if you take this case, on the one hand, you could say, look, ancient history, all those years ago, move on, we've got big challenges. The alternative view is, now, hang on a sec, you absolutely skewered, rightly, Boris Johnson and his breach of the rules.
Non-stop.
And Rishi Sunak, and now you've got to answer it. Is this actually going to be a little storm in a teacup, or is this actually a big deal?
I think he needs to deal with it head on and take it on and say why he could prove it was essential to the running of the official opposition that she came into his office on Christmas Eve when families were not allowed to be together at Christmas.
The Daily Mail for about 2 weeks
why didn't you respond to that, Kevin?
Full front pages saying there must be an investigation
in denial
to having a beer in Durham. The police eventually investigated. He was absolutely cleared. Right, we could get that again. You can have a police investigation again. You can call for it. I'm sure one of your lot was already called.
Why not? He's the Prime Minister.
You might as well waste some more resources.
Why not? He's the Prime Minister.
You did that with funds to Angela Rayner at Council House.
Kevin.
Keep asking.
Kevin,
waste time and money.
Keep taking the
and then you say, why don't people get their burglaries investigated?
I
know why they don't. It's because you're wasting them on political...
What he's got to do...
office sending you a little what to say today.
What he's got to do...
Is he warbling?
Yeah, there's a lot of warbling going on.
What he's got to do is take a leaf out of the book of the Scottish First Minister, John Swinney.
Yes. Can I just say, before, because we haven't actually spoken to... We've spoken to the Prime Minister's official spokesman. I mean, you've heard from Keir Starmer.
Well,
you haven't heard from Leonie Mellinger, but the book says she did wear a mask.
Oh, that's all right.
So,
yeah. I think in the end, though, I mean, the breach would be the person who was kind of commissioning it rather than her, wouldn't it?
I don't know. I don't know what's going to shake down over that.
I would hope
we will find out, because I imagine that it's a fight that that is just beginning.
That's not going.
But as I said, John Swinney, First Minister in Scotland, clear answer yesterday.
Does he hate cats?
Well, that wasn't actually the question. The question was, were Scottish people going to be banned from taking cats outside other than on a lead?
The question was, does your government dislike cats?
Okay.
Right, let's have a listen.
That's where it ended up.
I'm not with 22% of Scottish households owning a cat, at least one. That was a lot of votes going down this morning.
I would say that is a win for Good Morning Britain viewers, because yesterday we put it to the vote.
What was it?
3/4 said, do not ban our moggies.
Yes, quite
right. The Scottish leader, he has listened and he's categorically ruled out a ban on cats.
Do you know what that makes
in Scotland? Winners.
Key workers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Public service
broadcasters without masks,
delivering for the cats of Britain.
He's inherited this from his
Nicola Sturgeon,
predecessor, but
left one or two problems.
But what happens is you commission reports as a government, and here it wasn't to ban cats; it was how to look at wildlife and birds. And of course, cats do kill birds.
Yeah.
And then the people looking at how you protect birds say, right, we'll stop cats killing them. Which, yes, but then you create another problem, and that's why...
What do you do with all the cats? That is the unsaid.
It was a stupid report. It said it would save 57 mammals. 57 million. How do they know how many mice and rats cats kill in Scotland? They don't.
And then we found out that the solution was to encage the cats.
Yes.
Lock them up.
Put them on catios.
Yeah. Or take them out on leads. Good luck with that.
Yeah.